Welcome to the Starter Girlz podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girlz podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so thrilled to have you. And I have such an amazing guest on here. I just met her for the first time today. I'm so excited to chat with her. I love her energy. So in life, passion can lead to unexpected paths and incredible journeys. My guest today embodies this truth, having transformed his desire to stay connected with her kids into a thrilling career in motorsports. What began as a simple hobby quickly became a rediscovery of self, allowing her to race competitively, teach performance driving, and become a prominent figure in the automotive world. From building custom cars to racing on the track, she's made a name for herself in an industry dominated by speed and innovation. So we're going to meet her in just a few minutes, but I need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, I'm ready to bring my guest on today. All right. So known as Fast Lane Jane, or FLJ, she's a dynamic force in the automotive and motorsports world. As a co-host of the podcast High Octane Hustle and an owner of GTS Customs Automotive Builders and Fabricators, she has over 12 years of racing experience in autocross, time attack. Is that right? Is it? And road course. Yeah. I don't know what I wrote here. I'm looking at that and go, what did I write? Her journey started with a 1964 Corvette Rustamad built by GTS Customs, which quickly became iconic in her career. FLJ is not only a racer, but also a motorsports lifestyle journalist, a performance driving instructor for global brands like Bridgestone, BF Goodrich, Ferrari, and Nissan. She's been sponsored by top companies such as K&N Engineering, Falcon Tire, and McLeod Racing. Through her podcast, she shares the stories of inspiring individuals who, like her, live life in the fast lane. So this is going to be an exciting episode. So Jane, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you.
The crowd goes wild. Yay! Jennifer. Great. I'm excited to be here.
If I could have got the bio out, it would have been great if I could have read it all perfectly without stumbling over my words.
You'll have it in the comments section below, right? And
in all fairness, anybody that's been around me knows that I do like several of these episodes back to back. So by the time I get to the end, I start getting like blah, 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 because I've talked myself out of talking, And so I'm like, hey, the important part is we make you look fabulous, and that's all that matters.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
But you don't really need me to do that.
Smoke and mirrors, baby. Smoke and mirrors.
So excited. All right. Well, let's start this off. I don't even know where to begin. You got so many amazing things going on. I want to talk about this reconnecting and being relevant with the kids, because this is what you put in there, that you were trying to be relevant with your kids. I want to start there. Tell us how this all kind of came about for you.
Okay, so we've owned an automotive business since 1987 and been very successful at building Corvettes. And as GTS Customs, it stood for Greg Thurmond and Sons. So the whole idea was to get them involved in the business. Well, best laid plans, right? They don't always come around to what you want. And the kids kind of started to take their own path. And by the third child, at about 15, he was getting his own life and it was really interesting because it was our chassis builder that said, hey, you guys should come to this event. Check it out. Bring your car. You get to go slide around in your car. So we did that. And then I noticed that my youngest Weston was kind of more interested. And then my daughter, who was getting ready to head off to college, was a little bit more interested. And they started coming around to our easy for me to say, our autocross events. And I couldn't have loved anything more. They decided this was the type of community for them. And they really loved the fact that mom's kind of a unicorn. I have this little itty bitty car and I'm really, really tall. And it seemed to be a conversation starter. And so this was a real conversation starter with them as well. And watching how they really thought I was cool. Finally, at this point in my life, that I was cool. So that's basically how it all started.
It is so awesome. And I mean, but you could have picked anything. And that's why I think it's so awesome that you pick this. You know what I mean? It's like being relevant to your kids. And we know kids like cars, you know, especially I'm not thinking Corvettes, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking about being tall in this car and being a unicorn. I think you're just a unicorn, period, in this whole endeavor. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. Can I call you every day for a little inspiration and motivation, please?
Hey, that's all those years of Mary Kay I did. But no,
I love it.
It's the truth, because I look at this and I go, you know, like I'm looking at your bio and I'm like, wow, you know, and the thing is, when I'm doing these podcast episodes, you know, like you, I don't know how long you've been doing your show, but I feel like I've talked to a lot of people. And it's so funny because I was explaining to somebody, I don't know, I think it was yesterday, I was explaining that I look for people that have like a unique story or a unique kind of brand. You sort of have like all of that going on, like all of it. And that's kind of makes you a unicorn in a sense. You're kind of defying the norm, you know?
Well, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal until one day my daughter and I started taking yoga with her, because the anxiety and the palpitations when you're sitting waiting to you know, when the tree goes green, right? And I had to figure out a way to be able to breathe and just basically not screw up, right? And make it down the run, whether it was at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, whether it was road course, dropping the flag, whether it was something like autocross, and just wanting desperately to beat all the guys. I'm not going to lie. That was a huge motivation, to be good enough at something that you would consistently either make top 10, top 5, top 3, or earn first place position. And I never really thought I was competitive, but I learned quickly that I was. But it was always competitive with myself, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And which kind of leads me into the whole mindset of this, because it reminds me, and this is a completely different sport, but I have a friend that amazing runner. She was in the Olympic trials, and this was early on in my podcast days when I had a co-host. I remember us asking her, like, you know, what are you thinking when you're at the start line and everybody next to you is amazing? They're all great runners, and you're like getting ready to go. And I remember, I've never forgotten this. She went back and she said, I always just rely on my tool belt. I rely on my training and what I've done, and I just focus on that. And so I always love to hear kind of the mindset behind this. And you said this so great when you said you took up the yoga, because I can only imagine my heart would be like a thumping, like probably out of my chest. I would be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fast. So I'm curious, like when you do these races, what are the speeds that you guys do at these things? Because I know nothing. I mean, I used to go, I had a good friend that her dad was a racer. And so when we were kids, we would go and watch him do it. But I know there's different types of races and stuff that go on.
Yeah. So my little car is a 1964 Resto Mod Corvette. And at one point it had what was called an LS1 motor in it. Okay. So for quarter mile, it would do in about 11 seconds, 115, 118 miles per hour. And we're talking about, I would say a quarter mile. I think they've really kind of brought that down a little bit. I'm trying to remember exactly at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. if they're an eighth of a mile. I know Irwindale is, but it's with that in mind. Autocross for me has never been about like the speed. It's more about handling. Road course, my little car, I won't push more than 145 miles per hour because of the fact that it was not a purpose-built car. It was a modified pro touring vehicle. And it's it's a really valuable vehicle. So the last thing I want to do, and I will tell you, I have run into a K-rail. I have blown up a motor. And those are things that, yeah, if there was somebody around, they would have caught me crying about that, which is really, as a racer, you don't want to, don't let them see you cry. Don't let them see you sweat. I had never experienced that before. My husband assured me that, hey, it's not if, in most instances, it's when. And mitigating the damage. And I've even had a car catch on fire, and that was actually his car. There was a small oil leak, landed on the headers. We have full fire suppression system. So these cars are extraordinarily safe. But there's certain things where my brain kicks in and I'm like, the front end lifts. And the last thing I want to do is lose control of my ability to steer the car. I'd have to say my favorite is driving road course. Not always because of the speed, but because of the strategy, because of if you want to pass somebody or how you want to take a turn. So there's so many aspects beyond speed that go into a successful race. And I think that many people are like, oh, you must drive so fast on the street. I said, no, I don't want to drive with that in mind. I want to be extra cautious because people aren't, they're not trained. And this was a pursuit that ultimately went from hobby to a career for me, which is I finally found one. I bore so darn easily that I've been through multiple careers through my life. They've all kind of been around teaching, but this one I think is going to stick until they kick me out. So
it's interesting that you say that they were all about teaching, because I feel like I always talk about, how our paths are not linear. And I was just talking to somebody, one of the ladies that I met with right before I talked to you, she's a psychologist, well-renowned psychologist, had so much fun with her because we were talking about relationships and communication. But she had mentioned this thing about our inner child, how we're like, there's a 3-year-old, like there's a toddler in us that wants that is hidden in there. And she was talking about trauma, and I made the comment about that when I was little, because I'm an early 70s baby. And so I remember getting my boom box and putting my cassette player, putting in my cassette tape in, and I would record myself talking like I was talking on the radio. Didn't study journalism in college, any of that. I took one public speaking class, and I remember thinking, I will never speak in front of a group of people ever again, because I was so painfully shy. And like, nobody believes this now. They're like, there's no way. But I remember taking that class and walking off the thing with these note cards and this guy saying, you did a good job. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then I laughed because I told her, I said, it's funny because now I basically hit the record button and I talk on I record myself talking all the time. And so it makes me think about all these linear progressions that we do in our career, right? Like I went from doing that, and then I was in Mary Kay for many years, and I had to do presentations. And then I got to where I was leading teams, and I had to train and then go to bigger events and train and do all that. So I had all this experience talking to people along the way, And so when you say teaching, I feel like our lives are like that. Even though the careers may be, the positions may be a little bit different, there's aspects of each of them that sort of keep evolving into what we do.
I agree. One of my favorite memories now, because of teaching, writing, and podcasting, has to do with the comments section of my elementary school report cards. We love Jane. She's so much energy. She talks too much. Ha. That's what I say. Ha, bitches. Joke's on you. Woo!
I used to get in trouble for talking too much either. And I laugh about that now too. I'm like, man,
Right.
I remember I remember being a kid and being so scared of my mom because they did grades on conduct and I'd make A's in all my work and then
Oh
conduct
yeah.
would be B. It'd be like
Yeah.
B or C.
What
And
did
so
you?
I get grounded. Like I get grounded. I never
Yeah.
for bad grades or being bad, just for talking too much in
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm like, hello. Now
actually,
if I'd have let that stop me, I'd be doing nothing important for myself today, you know?
right, right.
I'm
See, so
like,
you get me. You totally get me.
exactly, exactly. I love it. I love it. So you got a podcast. I want to talk about that a little bit and what you do on that. Cause I was looking at all that. It looks like you guys have way fun on your podcast. Like I'm like, man, I need y'all to be a part of my podcast. Cause y'all look like you're just having way too much fun over there. So tell us a little
Oh
bit
my
about
gosh.
what's going on with this podcast.
So when I started racing, I started journaling, and then that turned into, heck, I'm going to blog this. And I created a blog called Riding Shotgun TV because in my mind, I always knew I would be on camera telling people the story of how a 60-year-old woman could go out, sling a car around, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't just have to be crochet. It doesn't just have to be gardening or sewing or any of these other benign little things that you think you're going to do when you retire, right? Get out there and kick some ass. And I think that maybe telling those stories, because the best conversations I had were with women who decided they'd get in a car. Let's say I was at an event like a Good Guys event, and which is going to be in September, the Lone Star Nationals, not far from you. And I did make finalist with my Muscle Machine of the Year. But
Fun.
beyond that, getting somebody in the seat next to you and them going through all the feels as they put the helmet on, as they lock into their harness. Now, this is 30 to 60 seconds of just unabashed fun for me. I recognize that it's not necessarily going to be fun. It's going to be unnerving and exciting and exhilarating. But when they see a woman who is a contemporary, their age or thereabouts, having had so many iterations of her life because she was bored to death with so many things, and then now is living this basic dream, and they're riding shotgun. Wow, the conversations you can imagine that come out while we're sitting and we're staging, while we're moving up the line. There's all these nerves and all the walls are broken down. So ultimately, I blogged about that. And then basically, I found another group of women who were just freaking badasses. And the question that always popped up for me was, oh my God, how'd you get to be such a badass? So wanting to know about their story and then writing about that story. That's how the journalism came about for me, and talking about people who were the top of their industry, the top of their sport, and having a phone conversation with them. And many of these iconic individuals were people whom my kids followed. So there came the next level of, oh my God, she's so cool, right? Because I
Right.
got to write about people like Jeremy McGrath, Kyle LeDuc, rest his soul. He passed this year from cancer, but became an amazing friend to me, to so many. And watching these things happen and learning about them, having a conversation with my co-host, and we had great morning conversations because one of our dearest friends lost her life, becoming the fastest woman on wheels, Jessie Combs. She was very instrumental in helping Teresa build her career. She was instrumental in helping move my career forward as well. And she died as a world record holder at and on her own terms. And it's hard to believe that she's this August, she'll be gone 5 years. And we just celebrated her birthday. But it's these people who break barriers, who connect others and lead the way, who are game changers, who are icons. Those are the people that I wanted to talk to. And then Teresa and I started talking, and lo and behold, Octane Hustle was born. And the collection of all of our friends has made our guest list. And we know some really flippin' cool people in our industry. So I feel incredibly honored and grateful to share their stories, share laughs, and bring those to people who wouldn't necessarily be able to get out to those events, or maybe it would resonate with them. Something might click for them, and it's just talking.
I love it. I love it. And I think the thing that I really like about what you're doing, and it's funny because first of all, I want to back it up and talk about just the women thing, and you were talking about the whole thing about the knitting and all of that, and I'm like, okay, I'm with you on this because I don't know what it is about women when they get into, like, I'm going to be 52 this year. And so something about women when they hit like 45 and they get to the 50 mark, like they start thinking it's like we got to just stop and do nothing, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like when you say all that, like it's resonating with me because my dad is 74, and I'm not kidding, probably up until maybe the last 5 years or so, he was snowboarding. I mean,
I
he may still
love
be
that.
sneaking off and snowboarding. I don't know, but that's my dad. My dad has always been that way. He's been active. He would ski. He jet skis, right? We had three-wheelers growing up, but he's always
Right.
been an active person. And, everybody, I mean, except for the fact that he's all gray now, people thought my dad was always like he was younger than he was because he kind of acted younger. And so, and I kind of get that too, because I sort of always act younger. But I think there's something about that keeping that spirit alive, right? Like, and I love that you're kind of breaking that mold and saying, just because I'm a mom and my kids leave home doesn't mean I have to sit at home and do nothing in life. No, you
Right.
have the right. You have the right to go do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter unless you have a physical limitation that says
Yeah.
you can't do it. You have the right to do what you want to do, and I love that. I think that is incredible. And if you're getting to talk about stories like that, I love that too.
Yay.
Yeah. And that's the thing, even on here, like I get when I find somebody that's like, I've had some incredible people on here, especially I have my women that are more mature and they're doing breaking molds. Like I just admire and respect that because you just don't see that a lot.
Yeah. I think that our country is in such a weird place right now that as females, we have, especially at females of a certain age, right? We have experiences, we have knowledge, and I think it's our rite of passage into adulting. And as an adult, it's our responsibility to share those stories, to um, foster and help the young ones and let them know that, you know what, just freaking go for it. There's always going to be people. I was reading a message from a friend of mine who is a genius. He's in social media and marketing, and he's just a genius, and he's come up with some really, really amazing different plans and different platforms, and he's getting kicked like pushback from friends, and he had intimated that he's had some of these people who were very close to him downright hurt him with things that they say. When I look at that, I'm like, hey dude, you only need one person right in your corner, and that's you. But I'm here for it. I'm here for the duration. And fuck them. You're going to have to bleep that out, but go ahead and just,
Well, I have it explicit on my
oh, good. Yeah. I'm like,
explicit
who,
on my thing
how,
because
how
anything
dare
goes.
how
Right.
dare somebody try to dim your shine? And you know
Yeah.
what? That's only coming from the space that they don't have the freaking balls to do what you're doing.
Right.
And that makes them feel like threatened in some way. Instead of joining the party, join the freaking party and have a good time and lift your people up. And I think that within yoga, I had a lot of women, oh, I could never do that. Like, okay, so I could see you could never do that because you don't have access to a vehicle. Okay, I get that. But you better find something because you're going to be here for another, 30,
Right.
40 years.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? I mean, I knit because I
Yeah.
can't crochet. I suck at crochet. So, I mean,
I'm
that's
not
kind
gonna
of like the
crochet either.
ongoing joke. I love to knit. I also decorate cakes and I do I mean, just because I get bored so easily, I'm not going to sit around and wait for somebody to tell me it's okay. I think
Right.
that's the stubborn child, the
Yeah.
traumatized you talk too much child.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership.
Away and the game's on the line. There ain't no
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
never settled on play. Putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day. Foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid on my dues, waited in line. 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loehding. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine. Brighter than all of the
The one who told you had to be quiet. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what happens when you tell me to be quiet.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
exactly.
girl, I'm
Man,
telling
shut
you.
me up.
It's so funny because I was doing a presentation, or well, I was at part of a presentation the other day, and it was cracking me up because they were doing it on network, and they were talking about a little bit different than what you're talking about, but they were talking about networking, and they were going, and I'm going on. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's the headspace we're talking about. That's their headspace they're projecting onto somebody else.
Absolutely.
Anyways, this subject, they were going on about what do you do if two people are talking and a third person comes up? And I'm thinking, first of all, we're at a networking event. So if we're at a networking event, chances are that we don't know most of the people in the room. We're not going to wait in line to take turns to talk to every single person. We're probably
Right.
just going to walk up and say something like, excuse me, don't mean to interrupt. Just want to say, hi, I'm Jennifer. And if they receive us, we stick around. If they don't, we walk off and move, right? Like that's most of us, I think we're going to do. But they were going on about, like, where's the perfect time to walk? The questions were about, where's the perfect time to walk up? Like, what should you say? All of these things. And I'm listening to this. And finally, I told the gal that there were several up there. And I said, can I just do a quick motivational talk? And so I'm like, guys, how many of you have been to a networking event and you've actually gotten mad about somebody walking up while you were talking to them? This is not a wedding. This is not a dinner date with the hubby. You're at a network. And none of them raise their hand. I'm like, and yet we're worrying about this right now. Like none of us are upset about this right now, and maybe these aren't your people. The whole point that I was trying to make was that we are projecting our own headspace, whatever it is we're fearing, and our junk off onto this topic. And so we assume that everybody thinks like that, right? And so
Yeah.
when you were telling me that, that's what I'm thinking is that these women are going, I wouldn't do this. Therefore, everybody thinks like me. And no, they don't, because there's Jane and Jane doesn't think like them. You know what I'm saying? And so the point is that we do this. We project our junk onto other people.
Yeah.
And, if somebody's doing like what you're doing, defying the odds and doing something that you love to do, right? We should embrace that, but we don't because we fear it and we say, well, I wouldn't. So then we tell you that you shouldn't either,
Yeah.
And no, I don't
Yeah.
believe that's true.
Well, and it's, like in my case too, I think that a lot of these things that kind of, butterflies in the stomach, it's like a roller coaster ride. You know
Yeah.
what? Maybe I've just chosen to be on a roller coaster ride
Right,
for the last
exactly.
12 years.
We're at this roller coaster. Hey, and it's
I'm
just,
like, damn, no
I
way
think
to
it's
ride.
awesome.
Oh my
I
God.
think it's
Anyway.
awesome. But I think, that the whole idea here is that, I feel like when we're content in our own skin, then we can embrace other people's uniqueness and other people's, unicorn style. You know what I'm saying? If we can't embrace
Absolutely. And
ourselves, then it's hard to embrace somebody else,
I agree. Don't you agree? I mean, because you're a unicorn as well. I mean, when you think about what we're stepping out and we're doing,
Right.
and it's just because we weren't shut down.
Right.
There are people everywhere that share our ideas,
Oh, yeah.
our ideals,
Mhm.
but they don't share our ruthless. We got to get the message out, right? We are standing up and speaking for, because I don't think I have any original, unique ideas. We all have the same ideas. I'm just boisterous, loud, vocal. I raised 3 redheaded children. So I've always, and being 6'2", it's always been look at me. Make sure, and the same thing I told my kids, make sure when you have something to say, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
So my husband's father is the redhead, so we got some of that redhead stuff going on too. My kids,
Well,
all
you're a
my
ginger
kids,
supremacist.
yeah. So my 2 youngest were born with blonde hair, and they both turned brown. But my middle kind of has that sort of like brownish, reddish color tint.
Love it.
So we have a lot. We have a little bit of that going on. Blue eyes, and all. We got German too. So I would say the
I
German
love
gets a
that.
little bossy and feisty too. So this is so good. I love it. I would love
Perfect.
to know, like, legacy. Like, what do you hope to leave behind with all of this? I mean, I think what you're doing is incredible, and yeah.
I've never been asked that question. It's a great question. It's something I would ask somebody.
Mm-hmm. It's a
So I
deep
love that.
one. It's a personal one, I
Um,
think.
I think if things were to come to a screeching halt where I'm concerned, right? I would hope that I left a mark in a way that said, dare to be different. Without going too deep, there's a history for me that through childhood, through adulthood, and now, that don't take everything so seriously because tomorrow is a different day. I think that's really, really critical. And I think that sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. And I hope that the things that people remember is that even though I'm a very serious person because I think it's important, but that comes from the heart. So I don't want to say serious. I'm a very authentic person. And I'm always going to tell you exactly what I mean, how I feel. And I'm going to hope that the most important thing that you remembered about me was the joy that I brought. And I think that's a big thing for me.
I like it. I like this dare to be different. That's awesome. I wrote that down.
Right
I always
on.
make notes when I do this because I'm thinking, like
High
when I go to
five.
do these, think about people, how I like, write these bios out about them, like, and I love this dare to be different thing. It's awesome. I do think you're authentic, and I like that about you too. I think that the authenticity is a hard thing to find with a lot of people because people are afraid to express themselves. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty direct in my communications. So I always get told, like my people that are not direct, I get told I mean a lot because it's not like I say, I'm not rude. I just say things
You're honest.
like how they are. I'm honest about it. And it's like, sometimes it just comes out like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that.
And isn't it funny how we've developed a society that is so comfortable with bullshit
Yeah.
that the minute you're honest, and you don't have to be nasty about it,
Right.
it's just the words you choose. And I'm really a stickler about neuro-linguistic patterning, and I'll dissect everybody's anything. I will.
Yep.
And I have to shut my mouth sometimes. But I think that we need to go back to being honest and authentic. And we shouldn't be the only ones. We all should be that way. Be fearless in your speech, right? If we go back to like the 4 agreements, be impeccable in your word, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to abandon you. People are so freaking chameleon, or their character is kind of, or loyalty shifts with the weather, with whatever so and so said over there. Well, let's consider so and so for a minute. What are they giving or contributing to a community? So I applaud you. Be authentic and truthful.
I agree.
Hey,
I agree.
life's too short,
I
man.
know, right? Right?
I don't need
I'm
that.
with you.
We're not
I
in
know.
school anymore.
I know. I think authenticity is good. I think you should be able to say things, and I don't think again, you don't, like you said, you don't have to be rude about it. But you're right. I think sometimes we get it's like we have these conversations. Like I said, I just had this whole psychology conversation. It was a lot, and I loved it. She's great. I love studying psychology and talking about it. But it's really like, she was talking about making people, being empathetic to people, and I agree with that, and that we need to do all that. But I think sometimes we have people that they think that the words you use now become totally uncaring, and they're truths, but they can't differentiate like like the other day I was talking about differentiating between someone's lying and calling them actually a liar. There's a difference in those messages. When you say somebody's lying about something, you're not calling them a liar. You're saying you're lying about this particular instance. The deed is separated from the character. Then you get into calling somebody a liar, right? Now, then you have a right. Be mad. You called me a liar. But if you say I lied about something, that's a truth. But you calling me a liar is a matter of opinion. Now we're getting into, it's a different conversation. People get those confused.
Yes, unless this individual consistently shows that pattern. And then that's when you dip out. You're like, oops, liar. I'm going to dip out over here. Right?
Exactly.
Nobody needs that drama. And you're absolutely right. I had this conversation with my husband. I'm like, no. I can't make you feel any sort of way. Mm. If you choose to take what I said, and he looked at me as all, and it was really interesting to kind of see the whole wheels turn and everything. Yep. But it's so true. And I think that when we're more open and we're more honest and we're authentic, right? There's no room for somebody to overhear in the background talk shit about us to that individual, right?
It's true.
And then create this drama that now lands in your lap. I'm not for, I know that people say, oh, if you say you're not for drama, you're probably the most dramatic one. Well, maybe I am. I'll own it. Yeah. Authentically dramatic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's less ambiguity when you do that, right? Like who is it? Is it Ray? I forgot his name now. I follow him. I'm drawing a break, but he says be radically transparent in everything that you do. And when you do that, you have no ambiguity. People know exactly where you stand. And if somebody comes out and says you say that, no, that's not something she would say, and no, I didn't hear her say that, because it's clear across the board. So I love it. And you said so many great things. I think it's all good. Anything exciting coming up? You mentioned this race or something that's close to me. Like, you need to tell me again where this is, because I want to know about this. But anything exciting coming up? Future plans? Big things happening?
Well, we are working with a couple different brands. Our podcast, we're actually going to be moving into a new location, another new undisclosed location. So we're working on that. We're excited about a couple of automotive brands that they haven't signed anything yet, so we're not saying anything. But they're definitely in the motorsports industry, a couple off-road folks, and a couple of my personal sponsors, K&N and McGuire's. They're always on board with all that we do, so that's always exciting. Good Guys, Good Guys Rod and Customs. They're a national show, started so many years ago, but that's where I really started paying attention to autocross. And I knocked too many cones down the first time I went around. The second time I went around, it was one of those things. So they have a very wonderful space in my heart. And this year, the Spring Nationals in Del Mar, California, I won as a finalist for Muscle Machine of the Year. Not me, my car. Remember, it's the famous cute little car, the little red car.
It is a cute car, by the way.
It is so cute. And it's so much fun to roll around in, I got to tell you, except it's hot here right now. So she's going to be a little garage princess for the next couple of months. But at the end of September, I think it's weekend of September 25th, it's the Lone Star Nationals, and it's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm still figuring out how we're going to get there, being in California. But it's been a minute since I've gone out of state for races. And racing's kind of changed a little bit in California, too, at least in my area. we had the NMCA, and they were in Fontana at the Auto Club Speedway, but now Auto Club Speedway has sold a portion of their property. They've changed things. So I'm primarily mostly teaching at Willow Springs for Ferrari. And after F1 in Las Vegas, I'm hoping to get on with McLaren to teach for them in Las Vegas. I also do teaching for Nissan, and that's typically out of Tennessee. And then another organization that I work with, which is a nonprofit, Breaks, Be Responsible and Keep Everyone Safe. And that's directed towards kids who get their permit 15 and a half up to 19 and a half. And it's teaching them not the skills to drive to get their driver's license. It focuses more on, what am I going to do if I get into a situation, for instance, somebody crosses a yellow line? So it's defensive driving. It's teaching them skid recovery, which I absolutely love, because that means in their mind, it's like, oh, you're going to teach me how to drift? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So they're super excited about that, but it's more like drift recovery. So that and just getting them more aware of what's going on in their surroundings, because Lord knows we are so overpopulated, and as far as drivers go that aren't successful in their driving pursuit. So I love that we've got parents that come in and say, okay, Johnny or Julie had a car accident. So it gives them an opportunity to talk to somebody aside from their mom or dad, in a safe environment. Kia is one of our sponsors, so we absolutely love that. They provide all of our vehicles. So I'll just be doing more of that. I've got SEMA. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
It's the biggest show of the year in Las Vegas,
Okay.
and that's all toward the marketing and the aftermarket. So we'll get out there, and then of course we've got our podcast. So yeah, just focusing on that.
You are doing awesome stuff. I love it. And I think you just keep doing it until you can't do it. Till you decide to quit. One of the two, right?
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
So I've got you. I know where you're all at, but our audience is going to want to know. And if they want to keep up with you and find out what's happening, follow you, all the good things, find the podcast, where do you want us to send them?
Instagram is probably the best place to connect with me at FastlaneJane_, and High Octane Hustle Official at Instagram. We have our podcast actually in the Auto Revolution online channel. We're one of 3 podcasts that they produce, and that is a great place to find us, and that's on YouTube. And let's see, did I cover everything? LinkedIn, Jane Thurmond, or Fastlane Jane, and High Octane Hustle. Yeah.
But we'll make sure to, when all this goes out, we'll get all the stuff in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this has been fun. I know you and I could talk forever. I love what you got going on. Love your energy, like it all. I think you're amazing. And like I said, I think you should keep doing your thing until you either decide to quit or you can't do it any longer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Oh my gosh, I had a great time. I'm so glad that we finally connected, and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, to our audience, we hope you enjoy this episode, that you found it both inspiring and informative. And of course, head on over, hit that like, subscribe, or comment on whatever platform you follow us on. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.